Okay, welcome to this video. It's properties of exponents extended. So if you haven't seen the properties of exponents and gotten a basic understanding of how to deal with exponents, you may want to take a look at that. But we're going to just a quick review of that. We've got three basic ones here and then two more that I'm going to look at. But when you multiply and the bases are the same, 4 to the third times 4 to the seventh, the bases are the same, you're going to add the exponents. When it's division and the bases are the same, as in this example over here, you're going to subtract the exponents. So 4 to the 10th over 4 to the third, or divided by 4 to the third became 4 to the seventh. And when you raise an exponent to another power, I say for a power to a power, you multiply the exponent. So 4 to the seventh raised to the third power became 4 to the 21st. Okay, so those are the basic exponent properties that we're going to look at. And let's take a look at the problems. All right, so you may want to watch me do one of them and then pause it and do the other 5 on your own, then check your answers by continuing to play the video and watch for explanations where you don't understand. Okay, so I mentioned those 3 properties. 2 other properties we're going to look at as anything to the 0 power. So you can see down in the denominator here, x to the 0 power. Well, that's going to come out as 1, and there's an exception to that, and if x was 0, then it would be undefined. But basically we're going to work off this property of anything to the 0 power. We're assuming that none of these variables are 0, so they're all going to, if it's to the 0 power, it's going to be 1. The other property we're going to look at is anything to a negative exponent, like x to the negative 5th. Well, we're going to rewrite that. We're going to drop a 1 under here, and we're going to take the reciprocal of it. And when you do that, a negative exponent becomes positive. So a negative exponent can be written as a positive exponent if you just flip it down into the denominator. Now, if it was in the denominator, and we'll see some examples of that, for example, here's an x to the negative 4th. If it is in the denominator, then you move it up to the numerator, and at that point it becomes positive. All right, and so let me clear the screen here and start with this first one. X to the 0, that's what I'm going to deal with first. It's in the parentheses. Well, that becomes 1, just based on that property I just talked about. And then 1 to the negative 5th can be moved into the numerator as 1 to the positive 5th, and that satisfies our getting rid of a negative exponent. So that became positive 1 to the 5th. Well, that's just 1. 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 is still just 1. So 1 to the 5th is just 1. And because this is all multiplication, that really effectively goes away anyway. 1 times anything is still the same. So we're just effectively eliminating that. All right, now we've got to deal with this negative exponent here. We're going to drop that down to make it positive. So I'm going to rewrite what I have. I got y to the 5th up there, x squared, and then y to the 2nd. All right. Now I want to extend my properties with the division. Y to the 5th divided by y to the 2nd. Well, I keep the base and I subtract the exponents, and so it's y to the 3rd, and I still have that x squared. That's my final answer on this one. All right, so at this point you may want to pause it, try a few, and I'll continue to go through my explanations as we go. All right, let's see what I want to do first with. I want to deal with these parentheses down here first. There's nothing to do inside the parentheses, but I am going to apply this exponent on the outside. So this becomes m to the negative 15th times n to the negative 25th. And all I was doing was using that property of multiplying the exponents. Then, so that deals with that denominator. These are both negative exponents, and I want to apply my property of, if you have a negative exponent, move it up into the opposite of where it is. Here it was in the denominator, I'm moving it up. Here it's in the denominator, I'm moving it up. And at the time you move it up, it becomes positive. So it's m to the 15th. And this one is n to the positive 25th. Now I've got everything up in the numerator, and I can begin to simplify using my multiplication rules. We'll see what we have. M to the 15th, m to the 3rd, m to the 5th. So I'm looking at all the m's, and those are going to come out as m to the 15 plus 3 is 18 plus another 5 is 23. So it's m to the 23rd. And then n, I've got a 4 a 0, so 4 plus 0 is still 4, and then plus the 25 is 29. This comes out into the 29th. That is as simplified as far as we can go with that one. All right, number 3, I'm going to apply this. I'm going to the parentheses first. There's nothing to do inside the parentheses, so I'm going to apply this exponent out here. This becomes x to the, well, it's still 0. Negative 2 times 0, I'm multiplying, and this one becomes negative 4. All right, now I can drop the parentheses at this point because there's nothing else to do. X to the 0 becomes 1. Y to the 0 is 1 based on that exponent of 0 property. All right, x to the negative 5th, I'm going to move that up and it becomes positive, so it's x to the 5th. And then I've got a y to the negative 4th, I'm going to move that up and that becomes positive as well. Now I'm just going to deal with the multiplication. I've got two x's, the bases are the same. I add the exponents when it's a multiplication problem, and I still have the y to the 4th. That's my final answer on that one. All right, moving right along. I got x to the 0, y to the 5th, nothing to do inside the parentheses, so now I apply this exponent, and I've got x, I'm going to write it out here, x to the negative 3rd. Wait a minute, I am supposed to multiply those exponents. So negative 3 times 0 is 0, and of course that's just going to become 1. And then on the y, I've got 5 times negative 3, or negative 15. All right, and then y to the 0 down here is just 1. X to the negative 4th, well, I'm going to move this one up. Move this one up, and x to the 4th it becomes at that point, and I still have the y squared down on the bottom. I'm going to take this y to the negative 15th, move it down to make it a positive exponent, pulls it out of there, makes it a positive exponent. I still have this x to the 0, that's a 1, so let me simplify what I have. I've got an x to the 4th on top, and I've got y to the 17th on the bottom using my multiplication rule for keeping the base and adding the exponents. Alrighty. Here, nothing to do inside the parentheses, so I need to get rid of the parentheses by applying this exponent to both of those. So I've got x to the positive 6th, I started to write a negative, to the positive 6, negative times negative, and y to the negative 10th down there. Alright, I am going to take the y to the negative 10th and move it up. That's my only negative exponent left here, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that on here. It becomes a positive exponent at that time. Now I'm going to deal with this. Let's see, I've got x to the 6th down on the bottom. Let me just rewrite what I have. Keep it a little cleaner. X to the 6th. On the top, I've got an x to the 5th. And I've got y to the 3rd, to the 5th, and to the 10th. I'm going to keep the base and add all those exponents. And I come up with y to the 18th. Now, here's a division problem. Keeping the base, subtracting the exponents gives me 5 minus 6, or x to the negative 1. Y to the 18th, that would be okay, except for they don't want answers expressed in a negative exponent, so we're going to drop that down, and we have x to the 1st when you drop it down, so the final answer is y to the 18th over x to the 1st. I don't need to put the 1 there. Alright, so that's y to the 18th. Alright, and finally, here we got something raised to the 0 power. I can multiply those. 5 times 0 is 0. Either way, it's to the 0 power, so it's 1, assuming that x is not 0, which would make it undefined. I've got y to the 3rd over x to the 3rd. That's good enough. I can't do anything with those. They're not negative exponents. They're not like bases, so I can't use any of those other properties. All right, let's look at this last page here. These look tough, but you're going to be surprised. Let's go to the easy one over here. You see this to the 0 power? I'm going to pause for a second. Think about it. Think about it. Anything to the 0 power is 1, assuming those variables are not zeros, then this one, the answer is 1. Whew, that was easy. All right, so when we go to this one over here, number 1, the first thing I'm going to deal with is anything to the 0 power is 1 effectively cancels out. All right, then I've got to apply this 5 to both of these here, so I've got on the bottom here, I'm going to have x to the 15th, because I had to multiply, and y to the negative 10th. And hopefully you're already saying, well, negative exponent is going to go up. Okay, and it is. All right. The 3 and the 15, those are coefficients, and you can reduce those. 3 goes into that once, and 3 goes into 15 5 times. So this becomes a 5 down here. Don't try to treat those as exponents. They're not. They're just coefficients. I still have the y to the 5th and the y to the 1st. It didn't have an exponent, so it is to the 1st. So I'm going to put it as to the 6. I keep the y, add the exponents. Now I want to move this y to the negative 10th up. That becomes y to the positive 10th, and that cancels out. So I'm left with, on the top, y to the 16th power over 5x to the, what I have, 15th power. And that's my final answer on that one. All right, next one. 5 goes into 40 8 times. 5 goes into 25 5 times. And let's see, we got to apply this to the b to the 4th, so that becomes b to the 8th. I'm going to multiply this, so that's b to the 8th. Sorry, it's getting a little messy here. I've got a b to the 2nd and a b to the 8th. So on top, I'm going to have 8b to the 10th. I've got this a to the negative 2. I'm going to move it up to make it a positive. I'm going to put it alphabetically here. It becomes a positive 2. And I still have the 5 down there, and I still have the b to the 5th. All right, last thing we're going to deal with is this b to the 10th over b to the 5th. Keep the base and subtract the exponents. That becomes to the 5th power. So there's my final answer. I'm not going to rewrite that. I'm just going to go with that. All right. Now to the second, all this in number 3, I'm going to deal with the inside the parentheses first, and then I'm going to work my way out, and the last thing I'm going to do is square it. Hopefully I won't forget to do that. All right, so let me put those parentheses and square it, put in a division bar. I have the x on top. I have x, y squared. This x to the 0 is 1. This y to the negative 3rd raised to the 4th power. I'm going to multiply those exponents, becomes negative 12. I do want to pull this up and get rid of that negative exponent. So I've got a 12 up there, canceling that out. So I just moved it up. And now, let's see. I've got x over x. So wouldn't those x's cancel each other out? And then I've got this y squared that's going to cancel out with 2 of the y's up here, leaving me with a y to the 10th. But it was also squared, so what's y to the 10th squared? Well, it's y to the 20th because I multiply those exponents. All right, same deal here. So I'm going to deal with this negative 3 out here at the very end. Let me consolidate, move some things around. I'm going to take this x to the negative 4th, move it down as a positive x to the 4th. I'm going to scratch that out. X to the negative 5th, I'm going to move it down, make it a positive exponent. X to the negative 2, I'm going to move it up. So I kind of got everything adjusted so I have positive exponents to work with. So now let's kind of work with some properties of multiplication. Y to the 4th, y to the 2nd is y to the 6th, and I still have my x squared. All right, down the bottom I've got x to the 9th. Let me put it over here by this one, and I still have the y to the 4th. And all that is to the negative 3rd power. Let me do a little more consolidation before I apply that negative 3rd power. Y to the 6th over y to the 4th. Keep the base, subtract the exponents. On the other one, I've got x squared over x 9th. That would come out to, well, keeping the base, it would be x to the negative 7th. Since it's, and it would be up here, but since it is negative, I'm going to have to shift it down anyway. So let me undo that and just move it down at the same time, so that becomes x to the 7th. Some of you may notice that, hey, there's 9 x's down here. I cancel out 2 of them, and that's where the 7 is, and that's where it's coming from. All right, this negative 3 out here. Finally, I'm going to apply this. That gets applied to both of these, so it becomes y to the negative 6th over y to the negative 21st, using that power property. And then I'm going to, whoops, this was supposed to be an x. You caught that. So this, I'm going to change them around, shift that up from the denominator up to the numerator, and the y goes down to the denominator. That's my final answer. All right, hope you're getting the hang of it. M to the 0 is 1. Cancel that out. M to the 5th raised to the negative 2nd. That becomes m to the negative 10th with that multiplication property. This m to the negative 4th moves down. M to the 4th becomes positive when I do that. All right, now let's see what I have left. M to the 3rd, m to the 4th. Keep the base, add the exponents. Down here, m to the 4th, m to the 10th. Keep the base, add the exponents. That's a 14, not a 19. All right, my handwriting's not too good with this tablet. Okay, that's it. Have fun with it.